Welcome to Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. It's almost the end of November, and we're going to do some talking about SEO. We've got a range of guests already. Deborah, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about what you're up to?
Well, good afternoon, Bill. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Deborah Norton. I'm an internet strategy consultant based out of Connecticut, and been involved in this industry for quite a while, as some of you know. And presently I'm working on taking two sites and putting them into one. So I've got a lot of work on my plate that's going to get me through the end of the year, but that's my big challenge for the day.
Doc, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Doc Sheldon here of Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central. And I've just been doing a little bit of cleanup work, billing out some monthly stuff and waiting for payments on other stuff.
Steve, you want to introduce yourself?
Steve Grinster, Steam Driven Media. Mostly just a lot of client work and dealing with winter and debating whether I want to fill out a couple of RFPs on a couple of projects or if the projects are going to be a more pain in the ass than value.
Well, those are the ones you give to your friends, eh?
No, I just look at the amount I was going to charge and double it. And then if it seems like it's worth doing, then I go ahead and send it. If not, then I double it again.
Oh. Make it worth your while to do.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Terry, introduce yourself.
Terry Van Horn, SEO Pros and SEO Dojo. And I do some other stuff too. Sometimes better than other times. But today it's actually working, so we're happy.
Good to hear. Tim, would you introduce yourself?
Tim Calling, a Servant's Heart Web Design and Marketing. I've actually spent a little bit of time over the Thanksgiving break looking at these home hub type devices. Looked at and actually tested the Google Home Hub and the Echo Show version 1, which was the only thing that was available in the store. So I can talk a little bit about those. Pretty interesting, actually. So. Oh, and what Terry said reminded me of the line from the old country western store song. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. So. I guess maybe I'm the only country music fan here. I don't know.
I was thinking it sounds like a Willie Nelson line.
No, well, it's not a Willie Nelson song. I forget who did it. But
No, it's not Willie.
I forget who it is.
I just drew a blank, but yeah, in fact, I have it on 33.
Oh, vinyl. Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm lucky. If the guy was old enough, I'd have it on 78, Tim.
Yeah.
It's funny how technology keeps on changing like this.
Very much.
I moved out here to California. I got rid of my DVD player and my VCR all in one fell swoop. I said, I'm not going to use either of these.
I just went out and bought a VHS player.
I was just going to say, sometimes there's a regret with that. I miss my old turntable. I'm like, why did I get rid of it? It was a Bang & Olufsen. What was I thinking?
Well, we've got Netflix and we've got streaming media. Build a playlist, digital playlist online. Listen all day.
Yep.
I've got a stack of stuff that needs to be digitized before it's lost forever.
I've got about 330 LPs in the closet, and my turntable burned up.
Oh, Doc, you need table.
I got to get that. Hell, I've still got a couple boxes of 8-track tapes too. You know, I rebuilt my the tape deck I had for that, and it only lasted about a year, and then it burned up again.
I remember when 8-tracks were too expensive, so I bought a 4-track for my car.
That's what I started out with, a 4-track in my pickup. Yep,
Yeah.
old Muncie.
Okay, y'all are dating yourselves now.
Oh, we do that all the time.
Oh, my stars.
Some of us on this august little group here have already gone on Medicare. Just leave it at that. So,
Yeah.
All good.
anyway, you want me to talk about the home hub stuff? It's kind of interesting. Here's what I discovered: if the contest had to be decided today, Google would lose because it's much harder to set up, much more complicated than the Amazon device, which may change down the road. But for now, that kind of tells me that probably a lot of households are just going to go with the Echo because it's so much simpler. And there are some implications for search, especially for local search.
Yeah.
As a result of that, because the Echo doesn't know how to use Google. They're not friends. And so if you search for a phrase like I would do, like best caregiving agencies near me, it comes up with Yelp results. So think about that for a minute.
I get a Google
I'd rather not.
and insignia, and it was to set it up. I need to take a scan of the QR code on my phone.
Well, now I'm using it with an iPhone, so maybe I'm being punished for that. But it made me set up two different apps on the iPhone, the Assistant and Google Home. And then it said, oh, you're a Google Suite user. Therefore, you cannot upload your contact list. It's like beyond belief. Now, maybe that's because businesses would need to, authorize their users to use it. Fine. But so then, since I'm the admin for my Google Suite account, I tried to figure out how to overcome that. And in the 20 minutes that I spent trying to fiddle with it, I could not. So right now, Google isn't going to win with the typical householder.
The Google Suite accounts were limited in other ways too. I remember that because I have a GoFish Digital account that's a Google Suite account.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just found it to be very interesting, and the Echo's not bad. So I was ready to say with great joy, you know what, Yelp can go pound sand, but not anymore. Not for my kind of client.
That'll be fixed before they do much with that stuff.
Say that again?
I said they'll fix it before it gets popular.
Oh, maybe.
So the Echo is a little bit more limited than Google. No, it doesn't do quite as many searches. It does a lot of product type searches.
It does. What it does is it uses Yelp and Bing, from what I can tell, which is another, now I was ready to not waste any more time on Bing optimization or local, profiles, and there it goes again. So, but no, they can't do any Google searches. So basically it's Bing and Yelp. And then they also, they have a lot of streaming services. They have video. They have a lot of news, type stuff, and games and music. Really good music. So I don't know. We ordered an Echo 3 for our kitchen. We'll return the one to Best Buy, and then we bought some Echo Dots for a couple places around the house. It's nice. It's the kind of thing my wife is happy with. She's a social worker, not a techie. She likes it. And social workers are smart, by the way. At least she's got a master's, so she must be smarter than me. I only have a bachelor's.
So the Echo also does video phone calls, right?
Yes, it does.
We were just talking about us. Sorry, we were just talking about the Echo Dot devices.
Yeah.
And apparently, Amazon is testing voice advertising on these devices already.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, where do I order my Chinese food? From this area. Great. Place order. I'm not sure how does the conversion happen? Voice. I can't figure that one out yet.
Well, I haven't thought about that too much because my clients are all service providers, so in the medical or elder care field. So I've been really thinking about that more. But yeah, like I can say, show me the best Mexican restaurants near me, and it gives me a list. And I haven't tried ordering anything. I don't know if I could, but I'll try that.
Well, with Google, you could submit actions.
Yeah.
Like Google.
Get my site to be #1 in your search engine.
How about anybody got an Amazon Dot? You can do searches through that, can't you?
It's basically a limited, from what I can tell, a limited Echo. That I've got a few of those coming, but so I'll know more about them.
Does it use Google?
It's probably limited to
I doubt it.
Amazon.
I wonder how much. I wonder how much bandwidth those things eat up, since they're always on.
I don't know. Haven't had a problem so far.
Well, for somebody like me, that would be an issue because I have metered internet. I'm only allowed so many gigs a month, and always on device is not always a good thing.
Interesting.
Metered internet. Wow.
But is it continuously paying the web for things?
Don't know.
And that's just it. I've come across like apps that I would have never thought. I've come across apps that I would have never thought used much bandwidth, and they ate through 2 weeks worth of data overnight.
Yikes.
Well, the things like Google Assistant, for instance, its vocabulary is basically in the cloud. So if there's conversation there in the kitchen anywhere near that device, it's going to be using bandwidth.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, well, it's always listening for the whatever they call it, the trigger word or the keyword. I suppose I don't know. Is it always sending your conversation off to the cloud even if you're not? I don't know.
Probably.
I would say yes. I would say yes. They're grabbing that data.
I think that you probably need to expect that it is.
Yeah, that's going to be the safest approach.
There are some Google blog posts that talk about federated learning and how it handles that for mobile devices, where it'll collect data about decisions that you make, things like that, and once a day or once at night, upload those to the cloud and then download collected information from lots of phones to you. So it's not a continuous thing. It's just a couple times a day, both ways.
Well, you're talking about when it sends the data, which would address Steve's concern about bandwidth. But then we're also talking about a privacy concern. I don't know. I don't have an Android phone, or at least not one I use regularly. I don't know about the iPhone. And frankly, I kind of expect we're being listened to all the time. And
I think that's a safe bet, Jim.
So my phone made noise when you said that, Tom.
Hey, Google. Okay, Google. Or I could say, Alexa.
It's got more hot words than just "Hey Google."
Alexa, play music. Alexa, maximum volume. There probably are some poor, unfortunate, probably ladies out in the world named Alexa too. That's gotta suck now.
I know one.
It's a brave new world.
Yes, indeed.
No, I'm pretty intrigued with it, though.
Name Siri or Cortana, though.
True. Well, I don't know. I mean, Cortana for sure. And Siri, I don't know. That actually almost sounds like it could be a name in some other culture or language or country. I don't know. The other thing about all this is that just back to Bill, your comment about actions. You mean where can you train the Google device to do something? Is that what you mean by actions, or are you talking about?
As a website owner, you can train your website to react to certain types of actions. If somebody visits your site and say they want to buy something like that, there's a way to present that as an action they can perform on your website.
I don't know. I'll have to look into that. It could be that Alexa can do that, or it could be that it can't use those. Good question. Again, I have I guess I have the restricted market, but still the luxury in my market of mostly just wanting people to make calls. So my customers want the phone to ring. That's the main thing. So it's the main thing I focus on, I guess.
You put the phone numbers in top right and bright blue.
And I use call tracking to be able to identify which calls are coming from the site, which are different numbers for which ones are coming from GMB or from ads. That's 99% of what my clients care about. I've got one client that sells training that is an e-commerce client, and so he wants a different outcome or different, he has different goals for the site. But again, this is both a blessing and a curse. It means my available market is somewhat limited, but on the other hand, it means some things are easier for me. Anyway, I'll tell you more about it as I go through the next couple of weeks with the Alexa device. I returned the Google Home Hub the day after I got it. $99. I didn't need to spend. So.
And all that stuff you put in the kitchen, are any of those smart devices?
Yeah, well, in the kitchen I've got the Alexa Show.
No, I mean like the fridge.
Oh, well, so we bought new appliances last weekend. For some reason, when the dishwasher died, we had to buy 6 new appliances. I don't quite understand that, except they were all old.
Because they have to match.
Yeah, well, honestly, they were all pretty old, but none of them were like IoT. As far as I know, smart devices that are part of the IoT that we talked about. Who knows?
Are those referred to as dumb appliances?
Don't know. Good question. Concerning how much you spend for them, they all ought to be smart, I guess.
Been seeing a lot of smart cars with huge screens in the middle of the dashboard and ways to plug phones in and other devices.
Yeah, my daughter's got a Chevy Cruze that's got Bluetooth built in for her phone, and it's got of course, you got the backup camera, and it's got the GPS built into it, and she can Bluetooth her phone in there, and she can actually sit there on her phone and navigate to what she wants, and then update that to the in-dash screen, like if she's looking for a map, for instance.
Does it have Wi-Fi built into it too?
Yep. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Yeah. What was a major chore was the documentation tells you that there's a default password, and it tells you that you should change it.
Yeah.
But they don't bother to tell you how the hell you're supposed to do that or where you can find it. So it was like a 2-hour exploration of every bit in the program, and coming up dry before I finally got some service tech at a Chevy dealership on the phone. And he says, yeah, we've been telling them for about a year and a half that they need to update that documentation. Here's what you do. And he emailed me like a 6-line set of directions, and it went right to it. But so they put out a piece of documentation on this model that doesn't bother to tell you how you're supposed to do what they tell you need to do.
Well, that's kind of typical for tech documentation on the first go around, isn't it?
Well, I would have expected something better. If it was Hyundai, I wouldn't have surprised me that much, or Kia. But out of Chevy, I really expected a little bit better.
Yeah, but the electronics probably came from Korea.
Yeah, North Korea most likely.
Indonesia. I bought a pager once about 30 years ago, and in the instruction booklet it talked about in the section that talked about changing the batteries, it said, do this to remove the battery cover, and then it said, caution, do not eat battery cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always somebody who's the reason for those stickers.
Yeah.
Caution, not for the other use.
Right. Actually, it's mostly the lawyers that are responsible for those things.
Well, you are caused to wonder once in a while. I would like to hear the backstory on what made this particular warning necessary.
I could tell you why there's a sticker on the ladder that says this step is not a step.
Been there, done that?
My wife got to plan that out firsthand.
No. Somebody answered that phone. Hello? Hello?
It ain't me.
It's not me.
It might be Terry. He just went silent, I think.
It's not me.
Terry.
I always love listening to Terry answer a call from spammers, though. It's very entertaining.
I finally actually bought an app for my phone called Nomo Robo, and it works actually reasonably well. I think it's going to work. I mean, a lot of times I get calls that are junk calls, but you have two choices. You can have it just show them and identify them, in which case you ignore them, or you can let them just automatically get a voicemail and not even bother you. But then you got to check your voicemail because sometimes they're not really spam.
I've got one called Mr. Numbers that will block lots of spam. If it doesn't block it, if it lets it go through and it is spam, you can report it in the app.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
Bill, did you post that today on Twitter? No?
I posted a link to the FTC's page on robocalls.
The do not call thing? Yeah.
I've got to get on that list because I got everybody and their brother, like that automated phone calls. I'm getting them every 5 minutes.
But in my experience, being on that list doesn't work. It doesn't.
Nobody paid any attention to it.
Oh,
and there's no enforcement when they don't. So.
No.
So what you can do, depending on how much free time you have, is a lot of these calls, they'll end with to talk to a live person, please press 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
If you sit through it and you get to that point and you press 2, that generally costs them anywhere between $50 and $100 because they're paying for lead. You know what I mean? They figure if they can get that far and you press the button, you really want to know. So they're paying between $50 and $100 for that lead. Then you keep them on the phone for a while, just chatting before you hang up with them. So not only have you cost them the money for the lead, but you've also burned up the time of somebody they're paying hourly to actually answer these calls. It gives me something to do some days. It's kind of entertaining.
Yeah, I love it.
Doesn't really cut down.
Has anybody received the one that said, we will get you to the top in Google. Press 1 now.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed.
I
Guaranteed. Site #1 in Google.
This is an important call. Do not hang up.
This affects your business in Google.
Yeah.
Oh God,
I've gotten a lot of robocalls on your business listings. You know, the Google My Business. I mean, sometimes 6 or 8 in a day.
Yeah.
And my phone is a Skype number, so as soon as I get a call from a number I don't recognize, I immediately throw it into the search engine, and about half the time it'll show up in Nomo Robo or one of those services where I'll actually see that they've already been lodged complaints against, and I'll block them. And Skype that's the one thing Skype hasn't yet managed to break. When you block a number, it stays blocked.
These are coming from your Google My Business postings from accounts you're managing, Doc?
Actually, they're coming from my own Google My Business listings.
Wow, that's interesting. Actually, I was just being hit up on Twitter, but GMB is down in the U.S. right now. They're having a problem with it.
Really?
Yeah, well, I read it. It's got to be #true. No, it's coming from it's coming from a very serious GMB person. Someone I know who is very much in this, but they're saying yes, it's down in the UK and it's down. I see mine is up, but
Sure, mine is
Mine's
not.
up. Yeah.
they said it's really wonky right now. That there's having problems with images and all sorts of stuff going on with it right now. That's such a big part of local search or local business is having that GMB available.
Yeah, you think?
I think, and I'm using it a lot more than I was before, for sure.
They
Well,
seem to be funneling more things into it, like Google Posts.
More and more and more things.
Yeah.
And one way that I'm now doing SEO work for clients is by finding spammed listings, spammed in one way or another for competitors, and either reporting them if they're really egregious, or in other cases, just suggesting edits that get accepted almost immediately. I don't know if that's because I've got a high level, guide rating, but like
That would be it.
Pardon me?
I can't get them to even acknowledge when someone uses an address that hasn't even, they're not supposed to be using it. Google still allowed that review to stay.
Well, so the main ones that I've been able to get instant results on is where they either use a fake
Losing you, Tim.
Is he going in and out, or is it just me?
No, he's going in and out.
Oh, sorry.
Tim's giving away secrets and Google said.
Yeah.
Google heard me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's click to call now. There's instant SMS texts.
There, I just went to low resolution on bandwidth. Maybe that'll help. Is that better?
Way.
So far.
Okay. Well, anyway, so like, I'll see situations like where just a mile or two away from a client that I know usually should rank really well. And they're being outranked a couple of miles away or even, 10 blocks away by somebody with a Google My Business name like, ABC Home Care serving, Sacramento County and Folsom and, with all these keywords in there, personal care and nursing care. You can't do that if that's not part of your business name. So I simply suggested edit, and almost all the time those get taken away, get cleaned up instantly. So, and I'm using that tool I tried to describe a while back called Local Falcon to find those, those nearby competitors. Sometimes they're legit, of course you leave those alone, but anyway, yeah.
It's prioritized, obviously, with ratings definitely make a big difference. I've noticed that. The more ratings they have, the higher priority that they're shooting up. So that's one aspect of it. So proximity is huge, and ratings.
So the interesting thing is they also just recently changed the way that they allow you to sign up what they call a service area business. They don't even require an address for those. Instead, you just declare what area you're going to serve. And I haven't really done any testing on this yet, but I hope somebody does.
I've done it.
Okay,
Yep.
so will a business, say, with 0 or very few reviews, that is more proximate
Wonking out.
to the searching location, going to...
We lost you, friend.
I turned off my video.
Okay, say again.
So maybe you've already tested for this. So let's say that you've got two businesses, one that is a service area business, and it's got, you know, outstanding Google reviews and a really great GMB profile. And another company has, let's say, almost no reviews or no positive reviews. Also kind of a well, you know, filled out Google profile, but they're closer to the point of search. Well, which one generally in your testing wins? Or have you tested for that?
I haven't necessarily like tested for that specifically. Are we saying, because if you do like specific, if you say specifically like near me, or your search query is in Branford, Connecticut, that's when you're honing right in. I don't know about anybody else with that, but yeah, it usually gives you, I know with the doing the service option only, which I've set up for about 3 clients already, is that they don't want anybody to know their physical address because they have a home business just like we do. Yeah. So they don't want to be out there. You know, don't come to my house. But it's actually, that's taking off really well. And I'm really happy they have that. I think
they've had it for years.
Yeah, they've had that for years.
What's changed?
Well, I think not much has changed except that you can SMS text people from the Google My Business app, which is new. That's brand new.
Yeah, I had originally set myself up with the service area, and at that point they did, and I'm talking 5-6 years ago, I guess, when it was relatively new, that they did require you to have an address. Mm-hmm. But in your settings, you could make a selection to not show it, but they did want to have an address. In fact, as I recall early on, you had to actually verify with a postcard.
No, that's still correct. That's still the way they do it, Doc.
Okay.
So you have to supply an address. It's just not part of your GMB record anymore.
It just won't be displayed, yeah.
Right, but it isn't displayed presently. It hadn't been displayed before.
Right. But during the sign-up process for a new service area business, you still have to provide them with an address to send a postcard to. The difference is now it doesn't ever appear in your GMB profile, even to you as a, like an editor of that profile.
That's right.
So what are they protecting you from?
I really wonder. Well, so there's a couple of interesting scenarios. Here's one. Let's say that let's say you serve 2 cities that are a little ways apart. If you declare both of those service areas, number one, I don't know how you will rank, but let's say that you try to create 2 SAB GMB listings, 2 business listings, but you are using the same mailing address to get the postcards at. I don't know if they'll permit that now. And I also speculate that someday we may actually start getting charged in some way for using service area businesses because they're going out of their way to make them easier to have, but that's just speculation.
Well, they're rolling out Google seems to be putting a lot of emphasis into GMB. Mm-hmm. So things are definitely rolling out faster than they were before. And it's going to be, I don't know how they're going to be looking at monetizing this because, Google monetizes everything. But they have a new feature in there now that you can actually, in your posts and in your reviews, you can start using hashtags. So that's just got, that was something Mike Blumenthal just wrote a big blog on, that this just rolled out. It is being able to use hashtags in, excellent restaurant, that kind of thing.
So Google wasn't monetizing Google Plus, and the Google My Business things seem to be getting more social.
Well, because they're closing down social. When they close down Google Plus, it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So your posts, I'm assuming your posts will just slide under your business account.
Well, they're doing other things too that are
Trash all
social.
that stuff.
You know, if you think about it, they're also doing other things that are more social-ish. For instance, the questions and answers, those can be posted by anyone to your GMB listing.
Well, anybody can go in and verify and claim your business name, change your address, whatever they feel like. So why shouldn't you be able to do that? I mean, what's the difference? I'm being sarcastic, Tim.
Well, they can, as far as changing your address, they can suggest changes.
No, anybody can go in and change your profile.
Well, it's called suggesting an edit.
Yeah.
What I don't know though, Terry, and maybe somebody knows better, I speculate that they will accept or not accept those changes based, at least in part, on your local guide ranking and their assessment of you and your trustworthiness.
Somebody change the address.
We've been going through an issue with a client where somebody's going around and creating duplicate business accounts in GMB, and we're having to constantly re-verify and take control over them. I've got for their primary business address, I've got like 8 duplicates now. It's gotten out of hand.
I have gotten notices that people have made a suggested change on my GMB, and when I went to see what the suggested change was, one of them, it was the fact that the hours were not filled out. Okay, they wanted to know specific hours, not just open or closed. And I recall seeing something on the screen that said that this suggested change will be presented to you for X number of days, and at which time, if you don't take any action, it may be approved. I think it said, I don't think it said it would be approved, but it may be approved.
What I think happened in this case, Doc, somebody went in and fiddled with the address, and
and it just by default it became
spam box. Like half the stuff that comes from social goes into a spam box. You don't see that message. Like how many people review their Google business? After that happened, I check it every week now as for the client and charge them for it. Tell them that's supervision, management, whatever you want to call it, but it's got to be done.
We do that too for people that aren't on one of our big bundled type plans. I think too that another area that you got to be careful about is if you can suggest changes, or people can suggest changes to the category of a GMB listing.
Yep.
And so
that can have a big effect.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. Yes. When we're talking about, Deborah was talking about search results a moment ago. If somebody changes you from, like physician to chiropractor, or to Mexican restaurant or something,
household appliances, that's gonna be a hit.
Yeah. And it also means that you got to stay on top of all of the newly added and removed categories,
which are in constant flux. Yeah.
Yep. Very hard to do. One of the things that I've done that it's expensive, but it's well worth it in the long run. There's basically like a book that is updated monthly, but it's like an ebook published by Joy Hawkins. That is something like $1,200 to buy initially, and then it's a $29 a month subscription service. But you know what? It's worth it. There's all kinds of slick tricks and quickest ways to get things done and tips. It's well worth it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a no on that one.
Well, for me, again, virtually all my clients are local businesses. That's all I do. So for me, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few. Also have some issues with that person in particular.
I've only got a couple local, and they're $1,200 now. I don't think that one's going to fly.
Well, again, it depends on your situation. I'll tell you another one that I've discovered recently is Marie Haynes. She has a general SEO newsletter that you can subscribe to.
Sharp.
Well worth it.
Very sharp gal. And she has expanded her repertoire considerably over the last 3 or 4 years. She is Alan Blyweiss's right hand, and does a lot of his audit work.
Ah.
And I've had some convos with her. She knows what the hell she's doing, I'm telling you.
Yes.
Gentlemen, I have to jump out, but I just wanted to say thank you. Great chatting with you, everybody, and hope to join you again next week.
Sounds good.
Later, Deb.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Deborah.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I'm going to have to do like her and probably just maybe I'll go back to using a photo from my avatar or whatever the hell it's called, with a picture of me or something, because this video stuff is really for the birds.
Pay more than $1 for internet, Tim. That would help.
Yeah, well, no, you know what? I do. So, what's really, okay, I'm paying almost $100 a month for super, super fast internet.
Oh, please. I'm paying $100 a month for super, super slow metered
for 2,400 baht stuff. Huh?
I'm on a cable network here, and I've got a 2-year-old laptop, but it's got 16 gigs of RAM. It's not like I'm probably taxing it, so I don't know.
You're yanking your chain there, buddy.
Oh, yeah, believe me, I can tell. If you could see my face right now, I'd be laughing.
Oh, okay, good.
If we could see your face right now, we would too.
This is me listening to Terry jerking my chain. Leave it on again for a bit. Hey, I can see you in your. Is that your workshop with the new lighting, Steve?
Oh no, that's across that way on the other side of that wall.
Different lights. Okay, I was going to say, ooh, you look so much brighter now.
That's because it's daytime out. I actually have the blinds open.
All that sun reflecting off the snow that he swears up and down he doesn't get.
It's really cold here today. It's a blustery 72.
What is it here?
I think it's up in the mid-60s. Yeah.
I actually prefer the winter over the summer.
I like it up to a point.
Well, that's because we've seen you in a Speedo.
Oh, man, you are on today, Steve.
Too much information.
And that's it, too, Steve. In the summer, you can only go so far. In the winter, you can always put more on. No one stops
that. That's it.
Bill, you or I is next. You know that.
Plus, when I was a kid, I'd go out and play hockey all day on the pond. Get used to the cold.
We do have winter wear here. It's when we start wearing socks with the Birkenstocks.
Yeah, long pants, right?
Yeah. Actually, I am today because it was cold last night.
Did I ever tell you I was golfing in Florida? Went there, and me and my brother golfing in a T-shirt. The groundskeeper was wearing a parka. He looks at me and my brother, and he says, "Well, I know you two are Canadian."
Actually, I knew a guy who was such a dedicated golfer and he lived in Denver. He played with a red ball during the winter so he could see it in the snow. I tell you, that's like crazy dedicated.
Yeah, I went to Black Friday sales this year and bought some button-down shirts with long sleeves.
Wow!
Just for this rough temperature we have in the winters here.
Yeah, my dad has a rule with the RV. If he has to put on pants, he's driving south.
That's a good rule. I like that. Here, if we want it to be warmer, we have to drive inland towards the desert.
Get over there by the Salton Sea.
Yep. Or the Borrego Desert, either way.
If I find if I drive 10 miles east, it gets 10 degrees warmer.
Inland, yeah.
10 miles in, gets 20 degrees warmer.
All I've got to do is drive about a mile, just get up over the hill behind here where the university is, and drop off on the other side, and it's 10, 12 degrees warmer. Go downtown, and it can be close to 20 degrees, especially in the summertime. It might be 62 here and be 90 uptown.
What I forget, Doc. Are you near Tijuana or Ensenada? I don't remember.
Yeah, on the west side of Tijuana, right on the playa, on the beach.
Well, if it's going to be in Tijuana, that's a good place to be. La Playa.
You got a tunnel home, Doc?
Say again?
You got a tunnel home?
Nope. No, I'm too far away. I'm about a mile from the. Well, no, I guess I'm about half a mile from the actual line.
Oh, really?
That'd be a lot of digging.
I bet you they dig farther than that.
Well, I tell you, they found a couple here. Recently, they found one that was something like 8 feet head clearance. It had mini scale, I don't know what HO, but train rails in it for
like
carts,
for
motorized carts, no less. Air circulation system, lights throughout it. I mean, you could have lived in this puppy pretty comfortably. All they lacked was satellite TV.
Well, and they can afford to do that because every little cartload of dope that's going through that tunnel is worth billions of dollars.
Yeah.
What are those guys going to do now that marijuana is legal in California? They're going to have to import harder drugs, I guess.
Well, more than likely.
Or, well, it'll be taxed here, so it might still be cheaper, like cigarettes on the East Coast, right? Smuggle it in.
Well, that does, I suppose, from a law enforcement issue, it does present a problem, because now they pick somebody up, he's all hopped up, and he's got a couple ounces of pot on him. There's no way of knowing if that stuff was grown in Oregon, Northern California, or Guatemala,
Good point. Well,
so,
yeah.
Huh?
I can tell you.
Yeah, you definitely need to bring in an expert witness.
I actually tell friends at dinner conversation about Terry and his online pot stuff and all that. You're famous. You just don't know it. Fun stuff. Yeah, I really don't know. I know that the cops here are now either going to, or in fact, I think they are already carrying, I guess it's like a THC detector, for traffic stops.
Yeah.
Just like,
and supposedly it's gotten pretty low ratings in terms of reliability.
Well,
mostly because there are so many there's some foods and drinks that will kick back a positive on that test. I forget what it's called. It starts with a Z, I think, but something to. But it apparently kicks back an awful lot of false positives. If you've been eating Bing cherries, if you've been taking this cough medicine, if you've been, if you're diabetic using insulin, that sort of thing. So it's getting kicked out of court.
DUI attorneys challenged the readings from alcohol testers and how recently they've been calibrated.
Yeah,
so it's a strategy that people will probably take with that equipment too.
Oh yeah, that's an old challenge since they first started doing the BACs. But this test, apparently there's an awful lot of, even in California, an awful lot of departments that have already gone out and bought these things, and they're getting really crappy reviews. And even the cops on the street know that you can't put a lot of faith in this thing, and of course they know the judges are starting to throw them out because of the negative feedback. So
modern problems.
We got plenty to choose from.
All right, we live in a complex world, or what's the old saying? We live in interesting times.
That's the least of the problems.
No kidding.
Yeah, you think?
I mean, like, from our standpoint up here, down here, if you think about the fact that foreign brewed terrorism is now the second most threatening thing we have to deal with, rapidly becoming the third.
That's after the threat of cartel violence. That's homegrown.
No, the homegrown is right now is number one,
Uh-huh.
and foreign-born is number two. And I think our president deserves an honorable mention, if not number one. But
there you go. There you go.
Had to go there.
Political stuff again. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but it's interesting, when you think about how after 9/11, how much scare was present around foreign terrorists, and now we're losing a whole lot more people to American off-the-wall nut jobs who decide to go into a school, hospital, or nightclub and shoot the place up. And that Iranian and Middle Eastern terrorists would suddenly be the second most threatening thing we got to worry about. Definitely, it's a change in times.
But maybe that's partly because we've done a much better job of keeping out the foreign terrorists. Who knows?
I have a hard time believing that the methods that, for instance, like TSA, are having a major effect. I do think that the surveillance and intelligence gathering efforts of various intelligence networks are probably having a big effect. But they just track them down and kill them in the night someplace else. Okay.
I tell you what, that it's almost like an impossible task. Can you imagine what it would take, if, for instance, if they thoroughly checked all incoming cargo for devices of mass destruction?
Well, for instance, here in San Diego, at the San Ysidro border crossing, 70,000 people go through just the vehicle lane. Another 30,000 daily go through the pedestrian lane.
Yeah.
Check all those cars.
How are you going to do that? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's just and we're also here in San Diego, the largest land border for freight, for cargo.
Yep.
The most traffic. And I have no idea how many thousands of tons a day, but you got to figure there's probably 15 to 20 tons on a loaded semi on an average. And there's several hundred of those guys go through every single day. We used to send 40 a day out of our plant down here. 40 semi-trailers a day, just out of one plant. And there's over 1,900 plants then, or now,
Yep. No, I will say too, though, you know what? The more time goes on, maybe the older and crankier I get, the more I think that there's almost a whole industry out there in, I'm going to say the M word, the media, but that includes left and right wing, in getting us all to be agitated and frightened all the time, and more aware of potential threats and diverting our attention away from how good most of us have it every day.
I'll just say one thing. In Canada, where I hardly even heard of a shooting or anything like that until they started covering them on the news.
Yeah.
Now our news is full of that crap. I won't even watch it because all it is, fires. What burned down and who got shot or stabbed. Like, who cares? Like,
if it bleeds, it leads.
The only people who cares are those who are affected directly by the nonsense, but that breeds that environment, and that
it does. Yeah, it normalizes it.
I grew up in New Jersey, and halfway between New York City and Philadelphia. So we got New York news channels and we get Philadelphia news channels, and we would switch back and forth from one night to the next, and it was tough figuring out which was a more violent place to live.
And what's interesting is that you don't hear much on Newark news about violence in Newark. Okay.
Right.
They don't talk. They don't want to draw any attention, so they don't talk about. They'll talk about New York. They'll talk about Philadelphia, Chicago, Detroit. But there is no violence in New Jersey if you listen to the New Jersey media or the papers. The papers are the same.
I moved to Virginia, and the town I lived in was maybe every other person was an NRA member, card-carrying NRA member.
Yep.
Everybody had guns.
And
we had very little crime.
Exactly, and very few shootings.
Well,
so
at least that were publicized.
so, in a way, regardless of whether you believe that we have a gun problem or not in this country, the publicizing of all of this is what makes us all on edge about it all the time, about all the issues, not just guns, terrorism and disease and the flu or whatever. We're almost being manipulated into being in a state of worry and forgetting to reflect on how good we have it here and how blessed we are, really.
You're right. It's very much, it has a dual effect, I think, in terms of normalization. First of all, it numbs you and I a little bit to where it doesn't have as much impact on us tomorrow when we hear about this as it would have 6 months ago when we hear about this, because we've heard about it 38 times since 6 months ago. Okay. The other thing is that now if I happen to be about 2.5 bubbles off plumb and I'm frustrated with thing and I happen to have a gun in my drawer, this is more likely to come into my mind as an action, as a solution to my problems. Now I don't have to just drive by and throw a rock through my ex's window. I can drive by and throw a 12-gauge slug through the window. Okay, so that normalization, I think, comes about too. It plants that seed as something that has become more commonplace and not enough to make you think it's going to be acceptable, but it's worthy of consideration. Yeah.
It doesn't seem as shocking, does it, anymore?
Yeah, it doesn't. And there's so many things, whether it be, shootings, whether it be opioids, whether it be crazy politicians or violence against women or pedophilia, all of these things that we're seeing so much of it that it numbs us and it stops registering quite as much. And that's very concerning to me.
Yeah, and I don't know what to do. We have a free press.
Well, yeah, but if Mr. What's his face up there keeps watching North Korean TV and falling in love with the newscaster,
here we go.
Now so I mean, our free press is already lost a lot of their journalistic standards over the last few decades. Gradually until the last decade or so, and now it's just become they're a tool of whoever happens to have some power to wield over them. And I think that the professional journalist of 30, 40 years ago is a very rare beast these days. The Walter Cronkites, the Huntley Brinkleys, those guys. Name one.
Well, I was just thinking about Walter Cronkite as you were saying that. It's easy to romanticize what existed in the past or when we were young, and yet I just wonder how much of that sort of rose-tinted vision of the past is accurate.
Well, sure. I mean, for all we knew, Walter Cronkite might have been a pedophile. We don't know. He might have been gay. He might have been a closet terrorist. We don't know. And a lot of that, the information age that we're living through now makes so much more information available, and so much of it might be BS.
Yes.
And it's difficult to know, when people are using this as a tool to, and I've had a discussion with my wife the other day that I have to be honest. I know there's an awful lot of propaganda put out on social media that is very anti-Trump, that's false. There's also an awful lot that's very anti-Trump that's true. So how the hell do you know the difference? Okay, the same can be said of basically any politician. Same can be said of Hillary. A lot of it was true. A lot of it was invented, and it's gotten very difficult to even for you and I who know how to use the internet and know what the risk is to actually find what's true. And most people are too lazy or ignorant to do it.
It's very concerning, and it's also causing us to scrutinize our government all the more closely, and wondering whether it's acting in an honest and trustworthy manner.
But only the other guy's government, not yours.
Well, yeah.
Well, just remember, all pigs are equal, but some are more equal than others.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real issue. You know, I think that the kids, you know, the 18, 20-year-old kids now probably have a much better handle than we give them credit for on how valid or credible information on the internet may be. I think it's probably the Gen X is probably the most on top of that for, you know, across the board. Guys your age and mine, Tim, most of us are dumbfounded at the idea that anybody would put up on a news site that wasn't The Onion or something like that a false piece of news. They just can't envision that.
I don't think I'm dumbfounded anymore.
No, you and I aren't, because we live around it. But your average mom at home who gets online twice a week to check her email, maybe hits Facebook to say hi to her niece, is not as conversant and probably is not used to the idea that people actually do this kind of stuff.
Maybe.
My mom was here in town when Trump was doing one of his speeches, and it was on TV, and she watched it and paid attention to it, and then watched the news afterwards, and was completely baffled that what the people on TV were saying, what had never been said,
Yeah.
you know, during the speech. And she's like, I didn't know they did that. And it's like, well, how could you have not known they did that? That's all any of the news services do is recap, slide their opinion in, and move on. They never tell you what they actually said.
I think, you know, if you're not careful, you tend to just listen to the things that reinforce your existing impressions and opinions. And whether older people are listening or watching the internet, it may not matter, because there's also you know, CNN and MSNBC and Fox and all these other channels that well, when I had my senior care business, and I'd go into the homes of clients to, you know, like do checkups and that kind of thing, quite a few of them had one of those channels going all day long.
Mm-hmm.
It was either Fox or it was CNN or MSNBC or, you know, one of those.
But the problem is that most people, in my experience, most people have a favorite. And that's the one they listen to all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go back and forth between CNN, NBC, and Fox. They choose one or the other, and that's the one that's on all day.
It's an echo chamber. Yep.
So you've got you got that confirmation bias, and you know they're in this bubble that they're always hearing the same thing. And the more you hear it, the more likely you're going to accept it as true. You know.
My wife just, it drives her crazy. I'll watch, sometimes if I want to watch news, I'll watch both CNN and Fox, and you can probably guess which one, but one of them I just get furious at.
Yeah.
And she says, why do you watch that? And I say, because I want to hear both sides.
I do too. I've gotten in heated arguments with a couple of friends on Facebook because, you know, they'll come out, they'll post something like, well, I had to block or unfriend 6 people that I can't stand these people that take this stance or that stance. And that's just stupid. You're just reinforcing your own confirmation bias. I want to hear what people are saying, you know, whether I've catch, you know, a lie that's being propagated, or I actually hear an argument that makes some sense. And I have on occasion changed my mind about things based upon arguments from people who had very different political slant than I, because they presented a good argument, or good information, good supporting information. I just don't understand. People are just unwilling. They want to abdicate the thinking process to somebody else. It's just so much easier that way when you don't have to put your brain in gear.
You know what I notice with Facebook? If somebody, a friend, says something, not share something, but says something, I'll listen, even if I disagree with them. But most of the time when they share something, whether it's left wing or right wing, I tend to not believe it because there's so much of this false information out there that's getting shared these days.
Yep.
Even if it's something that sounds like something that I would like to believe.
I've seen it. I've just in the last couple of days, I've seen instances of that where somebody shared something. Somebody who I know happened to be intelligent and thoughtful, but they trusted the source, so they just shared it. And it took me about a minute and a half to do some quick research and find out it was pure bullshit.
Yep.
One of them was about an act that was passed in 1952 precluding it was a meme, as they said, that it precluded Muslims from holding political office, which is
I know which one you're talking about.
Pure bullshit. Yeah, you saw the thread. And the guy that posted, I know this guy. I've known him for 15 years. He's a smart guy. He's got his own business. He uses his head. He does his own thinking. He's not a party voter. He actually exercises some critical thinking skills. And he shared it. And he came to me privately. He said, "Man, I feel like an idiot."
1952?
Yeah, something, it's like two names, like the Madison-Warner Act or something like that, 1952, which did not talk about any religious or political denomination whatsoever. It was about immigrants being able to achieve immigrant status or be excluded entry, okay, because they were criminals or had been deported.
For some reason, that reminds me of a law I ran across in the Delaware Code, the Communist Registration Act of 1953.
That was probably a follow-on, yeah, because it was a result of McCarthy.
If you were a card-carrying member of the Communist Party, you were supposed to register.
Yeah.
Well, there was a time when stuff like that might have been passed back in the McCarthy years.
Oh, yeah.
So I filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the Delaware Attorney General's office asking if anybody had ever been prosecuted under the Communist Registration Act of 1953. And they sent me a response. They said, no, as far as we know, no one ever has.
In Delaware?
Yeah.
Delaware, the little I know about Delaware, doesn't strike me as the kind of state where I would expect to see too many people carrying that card.
We had the Klan have a march down Main Street in Newark, Delaware, which is a main college town, and they were the only ones who showed up. Protesters.
Membership drive is tanked this year, buddies. Shit.
Listen, guys, I got to go. It's been nice talking with everybody.
Later, Timothy.
Later, Tim.
See you
Have
later.
a good one.
Bye-bye.
I think we need to, it's past the hour. Gonna close on down. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Take care now. Bye.